हेलो गाइस, वेलकम बैक टू आवर चैनल ढोकला एजुकेशन। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं आज की वीडियो, जो है इकोनॉमिक्स पार्ट 2, न्यू सिलेबस 2026 सीबीएसई, चैप्टर नंबर 2, द प्राइस पजल, व्हाट ड्राइव्स द मार्केट, पार्ट नंबर 2। सो लेट्स स्टार्ट जहाँ से हमने छोड़ा था। सप्लाई कर्व, मीनिंग ऑफ सप्लाई कर्व। A supply curve is a geographic representation that show the relationship between the price of a good and the quality supplied by the producer during a given period of time. Keeping other factors concerned, it shows how much producer are willing to sell at different prices. Next point, law of supply. The supply curve is based on the law of supply, which states first, which when price increase, quantity supplied increases. When the price decreases, quantity supply decreases. Other things remaining the same. This show a direct relationship between price and supply. Next point, shape of the supply curve. The supply curve slopes upward from left to right because first, higher price increase profit. Second, producer are enough to produce more. Third, new producers may enter the market at higher prices. Here is the diagram. Shape of the supply curve, the name of diagram. Movement along the supply curve. Movement along the same supply curve happens when only price changes. First, expansion of supply. When price rises, quantity supplied increases. Second, movement in upward along the curve. Second, contraction of supply. First, when price falls, quantity supplied decreases. Second, movement in downward along the curve. Next diagram. The name of diagram is movement along the supply curve. Movement from A to B, expansion of supply price rise. Movement from B to A, contracts, connection of supply price fall. Next one, shift in supply curve. Sometimes supply changes even when price remains the same. This causes this entire supply curve to shift, increase in supply rightward shift occurs when first, cost of production falls. Second, technology improves, government gives subsidies. Fourth, for favorable weather for agriculture. Next point, decrease in supply leftward shift occurs when first, cost of production increases. Second, taxes increases. Third, natural disaster occurs. Fourth, unfavorable weather conditions. Here is another diagram which names shift in supply curve. Supply increase when technology improves, cost of production falls, government gives subsidies, good weather increases crop outputs. Supply decrease when input cost rises, tax increases, natural disaster occurs. Equilibrium, the balance of the market. What is equilibrium? Equilibrium occurs when quantity demands equal quantity supplied at this point. Buyers get the quantity they want, sellers sell the quantity they produce. Third, there is no pressure for price to change. The price at this point is called the equilibrium price and the quantity it is called equilibrium quantity. Surplus. If price is above equilibrium, first, supply became greater than demand. Second, unsold goods remain. Third, seller reduce prices. Fourth, storage. If price is below equilibrium, first, demand exceeds supply. Third, goods become scarce. Third, price rises. Markets naturally move toward equilibrium. Third, price adjustment. Equilibrium, price and equilibrium quantity meaning. The equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity occurs at the point where demand and supply curves interact in a market. At this point, quantity demanded is to quantity supplied. Second, there is no shortage and no surplus. Third, the market is in balance. Fourth, the point is called equilibrium point. In other words. Fifth, if price is higher than equilibrium, suppliers became more than demand surplus. Sixth, if price is lower than equilibrium, demand becomes more than supply shortage. The market naturally moves toward equilibrium, where both buyers and sellers are satisfied. Here is a diagram which names equilibrium of demand and supply. First point. Point E is to equilibrium. Second, point E, price at E, equilibrium price. Third, quantity at E, equilibrium quantity. Ex- Explanation of the diagram. The demand curve slopes downwards, showing that consumers buy more at lower price. The supply curve slopes upward, showing that producers supply more at higher prices. Their intersections determines the equilibrium price and quantity. Next point, change in market conditions. Market are dynamic change in demand or supply, shift equilibrium, increase in demand. Example, a heat wave increases demand for cold drinks. Price rises, quantity increases. Decrease in demand. Example, health concurs, reduced demand for sugar drinks. Price falls, quantity decreases. Increase in supply. Example, good harvest increases vegetable supply. Price falls, quantity increases. Decrease in supply. Example, flood damages crops. Price rises, quantity decreases. Real life deviation from theory. Economic laws. Example, general trend, but real markets often behave differently. Necessity and innecessity demand. Goods like rice, salt, medicine, and electricity are necessity. Even if price increases, people cannot reduce consumption much. This is called inelastic demand. Luxury goods and elastic demands. Luxury goods such as expensive cars or designer clothes have elastic demand. A small increase in price led a large fall in demand. Weben goods. Some goods become more attractive because they are expensive, but more them buy buy them to show status. Perishable goods, vegetables, fruits, milk, and flowers cannot be stored for long. Sellers may reduce price quality to avoid loss. This explanation why evening prices vegetable market are often lower. Role of expectations. If people accept price to rise in the future, they buy more today. This increases current demand and pushes price up. Giffen goods, rare case. In rare situations, demand increases when price rises because consumers cannot afford better alternatives. Government invitation in market. Sometimes markets do not work in the interest of society. Government intervene to protect consumers or producers. Price ceiling. A price ceiling is the maximum price allowed by law. Purpose make essential goods affordable, effect in if price selling is set too low, shortage, long questions, black market. A black market is an illegal market where transactions take place secretly to avoid government law, taxes, or price control. Lower quality supplies. Think about it. Can free market solve all economic problems? Why is government intervention sometimes necessary? Price floor. A price floor is a minimum price set by government to protect producers. Example, minimum support price as a MSP for crops. थैंक यू फॉर वॉचिंग। अगर आपको ये छोटा सा पार्ट अच्छा लगा हो तो हमारी वीडियो को लाइक एंड सब्सक्राइब जरूर करें। अगर आपको इसका नेक्स्ट पार्ट चाहिए तो हमारी चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल आइकन को दबा दें जिससे कि आपको अगला अपडेट जल्दी मिल जाए। थैंक यू फॉर वॉचिंग।